This is video 3, hopefully the last one. Jessica, welcome back. And there's Leslie. Here we go. Trying to admit everybody here back. Let me admit all. Here's Lainey back. Here's Abby back. And Leslie, IE. Okay, we're still waiting about 3 or 4 people. Unless they decide not to come back. They can always watch the video if they want to stop. If it's too late there now. I know I've been trying to like put everything in one or two video. We did that last week. Well, because the first one did not tape, the first one did not tape. But anyway, if we can wrap it up on this one, that would be nice. But anyway, so on my, I'll keep watching and seeing if people will come back in. But we were talking about core proposition. The first one is knowledge of students. Second one is knowledge of content. Those two things, if you have an interview, for those that have not been interviewed, always go back to that. What do you know about students? And what do I know about content, on strategies, on how to address students where they are, you know, hands-on, they're involved, you're motivating them, you're engaging them, you're using real life examples, you know, your actual authentic, you know, things that you can do that they can do in real life. Those are things that will be good on your core proposition 2, knowledge of content. And then the third one will be assessment. So you don't just assess at the end, you assess before, and that was mentioned earlier. You assess before, what do my students know? What do my students know ahead of time? Okay, so like the KWL. Okay, what they know before, what they want to know, and what they have learned. So that's a KWS strategy. So that's one of the things you could do is or anticipation chart. You can do that, where you can put like a question ahead of time of the things you're covering, and then you tell them yes or no, or true or false, and then you give that to them ahead of time. And then you saw what they knew already, and then you teach them the concept, and then at the end you give that again and see if they have learned the concept. If you corrected whatever they thought it was, then you know, your anticipation chart would be good for that. But anyhow, the third one is assessment, and that's before, and then you can do during. How do I assess during? Well, you are doing your informal observation. You're looking at body language. You're looking at students are they paying attention, or are you losing them? Is somebody trying to, you know, be doing the cell phone thing while you're talking? That means you are being boring them to death. And so I always look at my students' body language. And I always look at who's nodding, whose body language is like really paying attention, or like, oh, like this. If they are like, you know, they're like so bored, that's my cue that, oh my gosh, I need to make this more hands-on. You know, I'm boring this person to death. I'm motivating, you know, the student to death. Or I would do, and then this is a common strategy. It's your 10-2 strategy. You have to have 10 minutes teacher talk, and then 2 minutes time yourself if you have to. You know, I do. There's a teacher that I observed that she uses Alexa, time for 10 minutes. And then when 10 minutes is off, then the teacher has to give the students 2 minutes to process what she just taught. Okay, I want you to turn and with your partner, and then talk about what you just learned. What did you learn? And then after that 2 minutes, then you tell, okay, you call 2 or 3 people and say, okay, what did you share? What, you know, all that. So then the rest of the group will kind of know, you know, you pick some people that, you know, that you thought had a very good conversation. I always, when they're having the 2-minute conversation, I also walk around the room, try to listen in to somebody that I may want to, you know, be an example in the class. So, so yeah, so those are good. And then after, that's very important to have, you can do an exit slip. 3 things I want you to write, 3 things that you have learned, 2 things that you can use now, and 1 thing that you still have a question on. So 3, 2, 1 strategy. You can give that as a form, and then they would fill that out, or you can use Google form and put that down and give them the link to the Google form, and they will answer that. And the nice thing about Google form is that when you get the report of it, you can already see, you don't have to search for it. It's already listed for you, So, and it already, you can set it up where you can get the email with it. So you know which student, answered and did not answer. So you have all kinds of strategy. In fact, I'm going to share with you this list of strategies that I have. You may be familiar with some of them, but let me see which one you're familiar with. Let me share my screen real quick. Share screen. Okay. I have my. Okay, that's my cloud gate. Hang on. Okay, so these are some of the things that I would do. I would do my workshop, some of my workshop materials that I have done with schools. And the first thing that I do, because it's I always do literacy integrated across the curriculum. So I always try to integrate literacy with curriculum. And these are the Common Core list of things, some writing products that students should know by the time they're 5th grader. So 3rd through 5th grade, Common Core state standards. They have to know from adventure stories to the biography all the way to speeches. They have to know that by 3rd to 5th grade. So in order for you to be aware of this, and I can send you a link to this, I hope I remember to do that. North Carolina, New Mexico, and this, send it to you. Anyway, so so you have make sure that you have, these are some creative ways for you to do your motivational things that you can do with students. For science people, you get lots of science articles, science fiction stories, and so on. They can make their own. I use like picture book, and I will use picture book to do my unit, for example, relating to my unit, for example. And I do that like right after lunch. When they come back in, I would read them a short picture book, and the picture book would relate to the topic. And then we start talking about it, and at least it's not boring when they first come in, like, oh yeah, we're gonna, we can either a picture book or a YouTube video relating to my topic. It has to relate. You cannot just put them something random that doesn't relate, because how our brain works is that it has to make that connection. If it doesn't make the connection, it's going to delete it to the short-term memory thing. So it has to make that connection to whatever you're teaching. Okay, and then for 6 to 8, notice that it's speeches. I'm sorry, let me move this over. Okay, it's like 3rd to 5th, but they have added anecdotes, apologies, complaints, editorials, and what was the last one? Interviews. So they have to know those 5 more things. When they get to 6th to 8th grade, they have to know more. So speeches end on 3rd, 4th, 5th. And then for 9 to 12, they have to know 3 more: satire, spoofs, and testimonials. So all this, by the time they're 12th grade, they should know all these writing products. So if you do this and use some of these in your teaching, you are better off. The students will have fun. You can do brochures, you can do, magazine, mini magazine, mini books, little things like that, in order to do some of these things. Okay, foldable. If you use foldable and use some of them, they really like foldables. Okay, so the strategies these are actually originally used as ESL strategy for students with as English language learners, like they're just new to the US. But what they found was these are actually perfect for any student, especially your struggling learners. If you use some of them, like for example, I mentioned the gradual release of responsibility earlier, the GRR. I do it, we do it, you do it. This is one of them. And then I've mentioned some of them. I've mentioned 2 cents. 2 cents. I like this because this got a step on how to do it. So when you have them in a group, and this is perfect, like 2 cents is good for students that are really quiet, So in my room, I had, for example, if I had 16 students, I'd have 4 groups of 4. Okay, when you group, you should not have more than 4, because they always say the 5th person will always be a slug. That means they're not gonna participate, they're gonna mess around. So 4 should, in my own personal choice, is that 4 is my biggest number. So if I'm gonna have to have 5 or more, I need to make another group. But anyhow, some people can do 5. I just have not been successful very much with 5 or more. So anyway, so you put that in there, and then you, for example, you have a topic that you discuss relating to your topic or subject that you're doing, and you give everybody 2 cents, 2 pennies, and you put a cup in the middle, and then so when they answer to their, when you give them, you need to discuss this in your small group. So if I'm student 1 and I talk, I'm gonna put my 2 cents worth. So I'm gonna put my 1 cent in. So okay. So then the others will have to put their 1 cent in, and then you put your second one and your 2 cents worth. Then you need to listen the rest of the time. You need to give the others to spend their 2 cents before you do more, because this will help students that are quiet, that normally would not participate. And this also helps people that are so bossy and pushy and want to dominate everything, and they would just do everything every time, and they do not give the others a chance. So this is a good thing to use, is the 2 cents worth. And some of these things you could mention in your interview, like, okay, what are some strategies that you use with your students? You can practice some of these. Okay, let me see, the 2 column notes, that's an easy one. Anything that you're studying, you just put 2 columns and you just have them to do it. I would do a T-chart, like, for example, a T-chart would be like a 2 column notes, like yes or no, or pros and cons of something. And then you come up with the first 2, and then the students will finish it. So you always model it and then let them finish. So it's kind of a good way to, for example, to do an after the lesson. You can do a 2 column notes after the lesson, or during the lesson. You can be, whatever your students are saying, you can be doing the notes there. But you have to model this. You cannot just tell students, use this. You have to model, you have to use it together. And then later on, when you feel comfortable that they know how to do it, then you assign them. Okay, I want you to use 2 column notes, or 3-step interview. This is where you have topics. These are all for oral development, for students to start listening and be involved and getting to know the other students. And so you have actually 4, perfect for my students. With 4, you give them a list of questions relating to a topic. For example, we're doing US president topic, and then I'm going to give them list of questions, for example, and assign each group. Like, for example, you have 4 students, so you say, for student 1 will be A, B, or E, your B, your C, or D. Okay, or they can decide on themselves. I'm A, B, C, D, whatever, as long as they know what they are. So, for example, have partner A interview partner B, and then the partner C would interview partner D, and they switch that. Okay, and then they have to tell the key points, what kind of a summary of what the group had learned or whatever gathered. So you have this grouping thing where they're actually doing some kind of discourse, some kind of discussion. But at the same time, as a teacher, you want to go roam around the room and make sure that you're listening in. Are they on task? Who are the kids that you're gonna call? Or sometimes, since I only have 4 groups, I would say, okay, group 1, I want you to share what your group had shared in your own small group. I want you to share it to the large group now, because I want that way everybody will learn what everybody has been discussing. Okay, and so it's like I would liken it to like a NASA. I have this NASA cup right here. It's like a NASA. If they discovered something, like another thing in the planet, out there in the universe, another planet, then they would actually share it with the NASA group, right? But then when they learned it, very well, then they can start sharing it to the world. So that's what you're doing with your large group sharing. You have learned something in the small group. Now let's have the whole world, the whole class, learn about what you have gained in the small group. Any questions? Remember the 10-2 strategy, 10 minutes me and 2 minutes y'all. And I have not been following that, by the way. And I should use my Alexa to get me to do that, because I want you to also process this. Any question or any comment, any example, anything that you have used that maybe, oh, that worked because I have used that before. Anybody use any of the strategies so far that I have shared? Guys, you're gonna have to answer. I cannot be the only one talking. I feel like I'm monopolizing, you know. It has to be a discussion, it has to be a back and forth. That's what you want to encourage your students in your classroom. You cannot just be the one talking, because they always say that your students can only endure what was it? Hang on. Oh, the students can only learn what their bottom can endure, or something like that. You know, they sit down and they get tired, and you're doing all the talking. When they come home, say, what did you learn today? Nothing. Teacher just talked all day. But if you put them in a small group and they're learning something, those are the things that they're going to share, you know, to their parents or whatever. I always had a rule with my own kids. You know, I have two kids, Stephanie and Jet. Every time we're driving in the car coming home, you know, they ride with me because I teach in the same school. And so then I say, okay, what did you learn today? And remember, I will not accept nothing. I need to have at least 3 bullets there, you know. So I would say, okay, Mom, we learned this, this, and this. And they have to have that. They have to give me specifics. So that way it has a conversation between parent and child. But at the same time, you want to know what's going on in the classroom, you know. So if I see something, well, Mom, we're studying this right now. So when I see something as I prepare for my weekly lesson, I always talk to the librarian, and I always close. So I would say, hey, my unit next week is this. Can you like find me some books and put them in a cart that I could, you know, they could wheel in my room, and then I'll have that all week. So I have all these books relating to my topic, and she finds it for me. So I would just warn her Friday afternoon that, will you please do this, because Monday I need it. And so she would have all these books in a cart for me that I would use. So while I'm doing that, I could be looking for things that are relating to what my kids are learning. So anyway, as a mother, you know, you also have to, my husband said, you never quit teaching. You're always teaching the kids. I know. And then that's, you know, even when they were little in the bath, you know, in the tub, I have these giant letters of foam letters, and I would stick them on the wall, and we would be playing games with it, you know. So your readiness thing, you know, so as a result of that, I have to brag on them. As a result of that, they were reading by 3 years old. They were reading, you know, by 1.5, they know their letters and sounds. And so, and so they ended up with a scholarship that's zero expense to us, no student loan. 35 out of 36, they got it. So in ours, it would be like a 99, in, you know, in CE for us. Do you still do that? Do you still do that NCE at the end? What is the entrance test for college there? What is it called?
I think entrance exam.
Yes. Yeah.
But in my time, Doc, it was NCEE.
That's it. That's what during my old time, you know, I left the US. I left the Philippines in 87. And so when I took mine, I had a 98 or something. And so then they said, okay, you can you can do medicine, you can do law and all these other things.
Yeah. I remember.
85 or something to become a teacher. 85 and above. So they have this cutoff thing at that time. And so because I had a high score, then I could pretty much do whatever. And I went to law. So I was a law student, pre-law student before I came here. Yeah, and then I switched to education. Yeah. So anyway, so yeah, and I'm glad I switched to education, because I've always remembered myself teaching kids in the community. I would say, okay, come on, let's play school. You know, I'm always a teacher. But anyway, and my only job ever in the Philippines, other than helping with my parents' business, you know, in food service business, was a tutor. I was a tutor in our students, our neighbors' kids, 2 kids in private school. And so the mother's a friend of my mom. And so she asked, hey, can Ellen is my nickname, can Ellen help our kids, you know, with school? And so can she just come like 3 times, you know, Monday, Wednesday, Friday or something, you know, to come help them with their homework and help them whatever. So I did that. That's the only job officially that I really got paid for. And so really that's my first love. Although, you know, law, I've always kind of saw myself as be on the bench or arguing about something on law, just because it makes more money in the Philippines. But I am so glad that I went into education and learned a lot, and, you know, and hopefully impact lives, right? That's what we're trying to do. So anyway, I think I'm gonna do one more strategy and then we're gonna do more later. There's about 48 or 50 or more here, maybe 100. I don't know how many, but these are strategies that I think 4 to 5 chunks of information is all that adult can handle at the same time. So you do not want to overload your students to have, oh, I want you to do 15 things. No, your students will only remember 3 to 5, depending on their age. And so for adults, we can do 4 to 5, 5 to 6. You know, very small chunk. Chunk means that you group them. If you group them, then that's what called a chunk. So if you don't chunk them, then if you get all this random information and a bunch of them, your brain will only remember few of them. So that's why I don't want to go do so many. So this is the last one for today. 4 corners. I love this because you're actually your topic and you have your students, you have your questions or problems or whatever posted on the 4 corners of the room. And the students then would go to a corner and they will respond to the prompt or whatever it is that you have posted there. So you have the whole group. Group 1, I want you to go to this, side of the room, and then the other group, and they switch until all of the groups have gone to each corner. And you can even say, I want you to, there's a thing that you can divide them in 2 and say, they'll be lining up here, line 1 here, line 2 here. And I said, okay, if you agree to this statement, whatever lesson you have, then step forward. So you kind of see who's, who agrees to some statement or whatever, opinion especially. And then you step back again, and then you ask them another one. But anyway, so any strategies that you want to share, those are the things I like. The first, I like those and I've used them. So any strategies that you like that you want to share with us? I'm trying to get participation, folks. What has worked in your classroom? What do you do? Do you do grouping?
Yes, Doc.
Okay, how do you do?
Especially in science, when I was teaching in grade 5, we also use grouping, like, for example, in the topics about matter. So for example, having the changing in different solid, liquid, gas, something like that. And they can share their answers, depends on the result of the experiment. Then the group will report. After the experimentation, they will report what was happened, especially in the chemical change. And then they share together and then report it using Manila paper, because we don't have a projector inside the classroom. So we use Manila paper and crayons.
Oh,
then children
can, they like that, right?
Yeah, children can have their own concepts, ideas. That they can share with other students, something like that. And so that's why science is very good to teach.
Yeah, it is powerful. But here in America, most is, Arkansas schools, we have a lot of schools that are high in poverty. That means poor kids, but we still have smart board. We have all the technology in the classroom. In Arkansas, most of the schools have 1-to-1 ratio. That means one computer per student. So most of the students will be able, especially with the COVID, so each student will be allowed to bring their, devices home. And also there's now a grant from the government where they actually were putting internet in the remote areas, so that they can have internet, especially when we were doing online learning. And so even though you might live in the very corner of Arkansas, for example, you will have internet. It might not be as strong as mine or, my sisters, for example, who live in a bigger city, but there's gonna be internet, because that's pretty much, a thing that schools want you to have. And for places where the internet is just not very good, some of the schools are actually opening their library, for kids to come in. And then most communities also have your city library, where people can go, anybody could go in, and there's free computers there you can use for free. Okay, of course, there's internet cafe everywhere as well. In the internet cafe, they have in bigger cities, you pay, like you do in the Philippines, you pay, a certain amount of money per hour. But a lot of the places here where they have coffee shop, they may have computers there where you can use for free while waiting on your food. Or they have at least, or Starbucks always provide, you always have a place to plug in and be working there in Starbucks. And I see like Panera, I don't know if Panera is in the Philippines, but Panera is another place that I see a lot of people working because it's so comfortable and you can get your sandwich and soup and be working there and so on. So I see lots of people like, looks like they're meeting or working with a partner or something, doing some work there while they're eating. So anyway, but I have this strange superstition that when you're planning, when you're eating, it never happens the way you plan. It's either going to get canceled or changed. So my family always makes fun of me because, oh, Ellen's going to tell you not to talk about the plan, especially if you really want to go do something like, oh, next week we're going to go to Florida, and you talk about it, talk about details you're eating, then it doesn't happen, or it changes, or something events happen that, your original plan that you talk about during dinner time is not going to happen. So it happened to me so many times that it made that superstition for me. So my family always like, yeah, don't do that. She's not going to want you to talk about it. And my sisters would say, that is quite wrong, because a lot of the business meetings are done, all the time. People have meetings during while they're eating, and I'm like, yeah, but you did not know if it went as planned. I know in my experience, it didn't. So I just do not talk about my plan when I'm eating. So anyhow, yeah, I'm telling on myself again, being superstitious. But anyway, okay, let's go back and summarize. I want people to, folks, by the way, you use the word folks instead of people, because the word people have kind of been associated with racism. Like you say, you people do this, you people, that's not a good thing here in America. So try to use folks, or friends, do that, but do not use people because that's been used the wrong way. So that's what I always try to avoid the word people. Especially when talking about other group, especially our African friends, your black friends, some of them would take offense on that just because that has been used against them a lot. And actually recently, there had been some Asian hating people in America. They have some people that are getting beaten up or whatever just because they're Asian. And that's not very common in Arkansas at all. It's never happened in Arkansas, but bigger cities like New York or whatever, that had happened. Like some Filipino guy was just like, got hit by somebody just because he was Asian. That guy did not even know what kind of Asian, Filipino or whatever, but he just saw that as Asian and said, you're taking our job. Asians are smart. They're the perfect minority, they would call us. Asians like the perfect minority because we kind of adapt immediately. And we kind of, always, a lot of times we would actually be more successful. Like I guess because we learn fast. A lot of us would learn fast. And then sometimes we would maybe accidentally that could have been somebody's job. And some of them might take it that way. They call them the replacement theory. Some of the racist people here, they call that replacement theory, are the immigrants replacing us. Okay, so I just want you to be aware of that, because I could always tell, and I've been in the US 35 years, I still read the faces. If a face look like frowning at me, looking at me like really weirdly, like negatively, I'm gonna stay away from that folk, from that person, because you're not my friend. You're not going to be my friend, looks like. But you can see the open faces like, oh, and all this. And yeah, I'm going to go talk to you. But even when I do workshops, here I am, this only brown person. There's not very many brown people here. My sister and I, and, a few other, maybe less than 10. But here I am in the room doing the workshops. Okay. And so they were like, what does she know? What's special about her? Kind of look. And when I say, okay, I'm national board certified teacher, which is only 3% in the US, or 5% now maybe, that are national board certified teachers, which means I can teach in 31 out of 50 states without any extra licensure. So it's a good thing. And I get $10,000 more a year just because I have my national board, and it's a hard thing to get. My sister and I got it. So that's a good thing. You put in my email, I put NBCT, that means National Board Certified Teacher. So that's a pretty special thing to use. Be proud of it when you get it, because it's not an easy thing. They don't just give it to you. It's harder than your class. It's harder than your master's degree, to get. That was my dissertation. I was looking at, on my dissertation for my doctorate, as I was looking at the impact. Who's more impactful? The teacher people, folks, teachers who are national board certified teachers, or teachers with higher degrees, masters and above. And my hypothesis was, I thought it would be national board because it was harder for me, but it's actually not. It's actually the masters and above. And so, but the ones that were, especially with the kids in poverty, what I found was the most impactful group were actually the ones with both the higher degree plus national board, and they impacted our kids in poverty more. And so anyway, so that is good to know, right? So if somebody would ask me, so Merlina, what do you suggest that we should do first, our national board or our masters? And so I would say masters first and then national board. So I could really say that with my data, you know. Okay, so last minute before we get cut off, any last minute thing that you learned, comments, anything, please. Remember, I'm giving it back to you, my 10-2. So anybody, comments, things that you noted today, or things on your notes that you want to share? Some of you I noticed are writing notes. So if you can share it, that would be nice for everybody. Okay, there you go. So can you share, please?
I've learned about the 2-column notes. 2-column notes, we also use that, especially in teaching English, especially in taking notes.
Yes.
For example, cause and effect, something like that.
Yes.
In a short story, we also do that, Doc. And of course, you have to model it first. We also do that. Good. Especially in teaching different subjects in the Philippines.
See, you are,
so in our instructions, we do that. The first one is done for you. So the students will follow. And because example is written on that column or on the board, they can easily answer the following questions.
Okay. Yeah.
So these are examples. Maybe the term is different.
What do you call it?
Maybe the first one is done for you, or number one is a bonus for you, something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
And then 3-step interview. Maybe the term you use is different, but I think in the Philippines we also do this. That's why I wrote all of this on my notes.
Yeah, good job.
So that I can review.
That's the most effective way to take notes, is connected to what you know. Like for example, I
connect these things in the Philippine setting, so that I think there is a similarity in teaching in the United States and in the Philippines, but of course the terms we use is different.
But it's nice to know what it is called here, so that when you refer to it during an interview, they know what you're talking about. So you might want to say, we do this, whatever it is, they call the column notes, and then in your parts you may call it 2-column notes. But in the Philippines we call it this. See, they love to hear that. They love to see what's the difference between the two countries, because they want to learn.
Also use Venn diagram, something like that.
Venn diagram is common.
Yeah.
They said that a graphic organizer is one.
Graphic organizer.
Yes, graphic organizer, like Venn diagram, and a summarization, summary,
something like that,
are the two powerful things you can do in order for students to remember what you taught. So I do that a lot. I use a lot of graphic organizer. I use a lot of different ways to summarize something. 2-column notes, actually, one way you could also do summarization. So anytime that you wrap up your topic at the end, that's why I kind of try to do this here. You wrap it up and try to see what people have learned, and try to summarize the things that you taught. Like for example, today I talked about the knowledge of students, knowledge of content, and the knowledge of content strategies. So I talk about the 5 strategies I've introduced, and hopefully next time I'll introduce more. But
what like most, the thing that I like to experience is the 4 corners.
You like
I've never been do that.
Yeah.
I think that is very fun and children will enjoy.
I think so. I think you're right about that. But anytime that you have them to get up, like for example, when you do your jigsaw strategy, where they are going to the different groups, and there'll be an expert in that, and they come back to their core group and share what they learned. Those are things that they actually would remember it. How I know that is because at the end of the day, just like how I do my own kids, I would be by the room, and that's their ticket out, is to tell me what they learned today. So that's like they're already getting ready and they have to listen to what the others are saying because they can't repeat it. They can't follow somebody. They said, oh, I learned today about how to do this. Okay, you can go. And then the next person. So we do that even before we go to lunch. We line up for lunch. Instead of them being quiet, they're listening because I'm like, okay, so far, what did you learn? Before we go to lunch and so on. And this helps the students because when their parents ask them what you learned, they remembered, oh, Miss McCullough asked me that during lunch, or Miss McCullough asked me that at the end of the day. And my end of the day was always a reflection journal. My last 15, 20 minutes is about reflection journal, communication notebook is what I called it. And they would reflect on what they learned. And then they show it to their parents, have to be signed by the parent. So it's almost like a three-way communication between the parents and the students. To me, that's one of the most powerful things that you could do because you get to know your students' thinking. A lot of times with a teenager, you would know who they have a crush on. They would say that to you, so and so. And it's so funny because you can see who are the popular, in elementary, for example, the popular little boys or girls, because you always have people writing about them on their journal because you get to keep it yourself. It's a private thing. And I said, if you don't want me to read it, I want you to fold it in the middle. It's something that you just want to express yourself, whatever, fold it in the middle. If you fold it in half in there, if you fold it in half and kind of close it, then it's a private thing. So what I do is I just look, make sure there's something there and I just close it. And so that way they just want to express yourself because I always tell them, if you cannot express yourself verbally, try to write it write it down. And that way you can still get it out of your system and you won't be exploding, and get the anger, a lot of, there's actually, since COVID, there's actually an increase of people committing suicide. So you be careful and, high school, if you look at a bunch of the young influencers right now on Facebook, for example, on social media, there's an increase of so many percent increase of people committing suicide, and these are kids with millions of followers, and they are ending their lives because of the pressure of what, the negative things that people say about them, and that kind of is so much stress. So anyway, so keep that mental health in mind whenever we're dealing with students. Your the emotional, social intelligence, you have your IQ, but you also have your EQ. So your EQ, your emotional intelligence, you have to keep that in mind because once you know your students and you know what they're feeling because of their communication notebook, then you know how to handle it. They will write about, what they write something about home, what's worrying them. My mom, my grandma is in the hospital, or my mom is doing this. Then you kind of know that. You keep that in mind that, this child might be acting differently because this child is worried, worried about something. And then you know that something because they have a way to do that in their communication notebook. So I can really say all of my students that I ever had, I know them really well because they wrote every day. So not just of what they learned, but something personal that they want to tell me. And I never shared it with other people. I just, the Vegas rule, what is said here stays here. I don't say Vegas rule because it sounds like a gambling thing, but it's like, this is our classroom rule. What's being shared here stays here. So anyway, so that's all I have today. And I just want to thank you all for coming and your regulars here. Some of them are becoming regulars, coming in every time. I guess if I have a reward for you, I'll have to give it to you in person when you get here. That is the ultimate thing. I'll treat you. You come to my house and we'll go do things together. So yeah. Anyway, all right. Well, thank you and hope to see you again on Friday. And meantime, if you have any questions or any whatever, because you didn't say it here, feel free to email me. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. I feel like
invited Miss Donna.
Thank you, Doc.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right,
Thank you,
you.
Doc.
Thank
Good to see
you,
you.
Doc.
Night,
Thank you so much,
everyone.
Donna, hi, if I didn't talk to you guys,
Night.
I would not, if I didn't
Miss
talk to you at
Donna.
all and you just came in late, please stay because I want to talk to you, especially if this is the first time that you stayed. I want you to stay because I want to know more about you. Okay. I know I said goodbye to everybody, but those that I did not talk to, like, I know there's some names here, like Donna Jane.
Yes, Doc. I invited my friend,
Yes.
Donna.
Can she introduce herself? Because I'd like to see who they are. Do you mind?
Miss Donna. Miss
Hello
Donna.
po, good evening.
Please turn on your phone.
Sorry for that.
Ah.
My camera is not yet working
Oh, no
on my
problem.
laptop.
Donna, I think I
I'm
did
trying to
didn't have an email from you. Some of them did not send me, I always respond like, give me this paperwork. Some of you all had not responded. If you do not respond to the paperwork request that I sent, Like if I don't have a resume of the cover
Oh, I
letter,
see.
I do not even put you in my list yet. So I'm still waiting for that.
Okay.
Okay. So
Okay,
if you just have
I'll check my email again.
yeah. So if you just have an
Doctor, and
email
I
to
will-
me, yeah, if you just send an email to me, I am this and this and that, I want to apply, that's not going to make my list because my list has more
okay.
requirements there. Okay.
Okay, got it.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
I
All right.
will.
Okay. So we'll see you later.
Thank you so much,
Okay.
Doc.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Doc. God
Bye.
bless everyone. Good
Bye,
night.
everyone.
Good night.